Now, this is not live, right?
No, it's not live.
We'll listen to it and edit if we need to.
Yeah. Well, we're recording already, so welcome back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Dojo podcast. I'm Lauren.
I'm Jeremiah.
And you're listening to episode 30. We've made it a pretty long way in I don't know how many months we've been doing this, but...
Dirty 30.
Okay. So today is going to be a super fun episode because we actually have our third round of guest singular, because we only have one guest this time. Normally we have more than one. We have with us Sam Jaquinta, and cool background on Sam. So I met Sam when I was 9 years old at our old dojo, and Sam was notorious for being terrifying, particularly to younger people.
Which he still is.
Well, he's still terrifying to younger people. Now they giggle at him sometimes now, but back in the day, especially. We were definitely scared of Sam for good reason, because he was very intense, and he brought a whole new perspective on training. Every time he came in to teach, we always knew we were going to be drilled into the ground, that we were going to be holding stances for very long periods of time, and that we were going to be dying for water by the end of class. He's shaking his head, but it was pretty intense. But it's great memories now. At the time, we just definitely were not happy about it. So yeah. Sam actually lives an hour south of us here in Bushnell, so he comes up. You've been coming up every other Thursday for how many years, Sam?
Probably 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah.
And what's so cool is that he's continued, even though we're, I've taken over now and we're in a different location, he still comes up and helps with teaching and all that kind of stuff every other Thursday. So he's been a great member of our community and a great help, and just provided a lot of wisdom and insight for us. So
he's definitely one of our elders, right?
Definitely one of our pillars of this community.
Well, my story with Sam is a little bit different. The dojo I took over in Ocala is actually originally Sam's. He started it back in the mid-'80s, and from that point on, trickled through his students till it got to me. Yay.
Yeah.
So I knew of Sam before I ever met Sam.
Yeah.
But when I came down to Bushnell, I think it was, we had closed down for spring break one year. And the guy that was running the dojo up there had closed down, and I wanted to train. Mm-hmm. So I had reached down to Bushnell Dojo and asked if I could come train, and happened to be on a Thursday night with Sam. Mm-hmm. And I met him there, and it was kind of cool because old school guys are,
yeah,
a rare breed sometimes, and it's good to be around them. So that's how I initially met Sam. But from that point on, it's been very interesting to train with him because of his unique attitude.
Yes.
And personality.
Oh, gee.
You're definitely one of a kind, Sam.
Absolutely.
Well, you started the Ocala Dojo in 81?
Actually, 83.
83.
Yeah. Right. I actually moved to Ocala in, let's say, 81. Mm-hmm. Really 82. Mm-hmm. And then I did demographics. I did a 13-week introductory course at a church. Mm-hmm. Okay, a church that I actually wound up becoming a member. But I had a little map, and everybody that showed up for the 13 weeks, I had little pins that I put in the map to see where they came from, because the demographics were important if I was going to start a school.
That's very smart.
To see where the people came from.
Yeah.
So I wound up starting a school in 83, okay, at a racket club. Okay, and at that time, before I started the club, I found out that, well, there was a Joe Harper, okay, I was a friend of Craig Shaving, which were two people that I knew from karate. I known Schaefer all the way back to probably 68, okay, but anyhow, we said, hey, let's start a club, and so I was the chief instructor, and Craig was my second, and Harper was helping. Okay, and that's how we started the club.
Yes.
So we ran the club, okay, not for profit, okay, and we just charged enough to pay for the certificates and belts and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And of course, this was after I had did a 13-week program and had people, so the club was great,
Yeah.
Just trained until I had to relocate, and then I left the club. Okay. I don't know who. Actually, it was either Kaiser or let's see, Tim Carter.
Mm-hmm. I think it was Carter.
I think Harper was there. He was a special law enforcement agent, worked for the governor. Okay, but he relocated too.
Yeah.
So then I kind of lost track of those people, and I went to Dublin, Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, and found a school there and started teaching there. So.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's really cool that you started that club in Ocala, and it changed hands until it ended up in Jeremiah's hands. And then you're great friends with Les, who started the dojo down here in Bushnell. Well, it was in Center Hill originally, but in Sumter County, and it changed hands to me. Right. So and then we ended up together. So it's funny how things kind of work out and stuff.
Well, now that you mention it, when I was running the club in Ocala, I knew Les from the original Florida Karate Academy in Fort Lauderdale. Mm-hmm. I think Les started training in 1972.
Yeah.
And of course, he relocated to Center Hill and Bushnell, etc. But while I was running the club, I kept in touch with Les, and then periodically I would bring my students down to train at his club, and he would bring his students up to my club.
Oh my gosh, that's so
so we kept in touch that way.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting.
That's funny, because we did the same thing for a while.
Yeah.
So let's see here. So Jeremiah, I know you wrote down a bunch of questions for Sam. Do you want to ask him the first one?
Yeah, what I would like to know is, Sam, tell us your story. Tell us your karate story.
Okay, my karate story. Okay, in high school, okay, I was an athlete. I played football and I ran track. Okay, and I was very successful at that. But then when I graduated high school, I relocated to Florida. And when I was in Florida, okay, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess it's fortunately, I got caught in a rainstorm, okay, leaving work. And I had to run from my place of employment to my car. And when I got in my car, I was huffing and puffing. I couldn't believe how terrible shape I was in. At that time, I was smoking cigarettes and drinking. Not heavily, in moderation. But I said, this is terrible. So the next day at work, okay, I started chatting up with a couple of guys that I knew and said, hey, let's find something we can do that would get us back in shape. Okay, so as a group, and there were actually 6 other people, so there was 7 of us, kind of a magic number. Anyhow, we found different places to go and see what they had to offer. Okay, we went to, you probably don't recall this, but Vic Tanny, okay, had a bunch of string, like not gymnasium, but the weight training, red carpets, chrome weights, and all this. And we went there, and hey, that looked exciting. Very expensive. So we put that in our back pocket. So we went to some place that they had Swedish health spas at that time, where you could go in I guess it was a sauna, and they could beat you with little sticks or something like this. And, oh gosh, that wasn't really appealing. Mm-hmm. We wound up in Lauderdale by the Sea. Okay, on a second-story place, there was a karate school there. When we went in there was all these guys in like a spread eagle position, and you're like doing a split. And there's this guy, he got a hook nose. His name was David Kaufman. Okay, turned out he was a Jewish fella, and he happened to be a Nidan, that he got his Nidan in the Air Force in Japan. Okay, so he was the head instructor there. And these guys are each knee, and they had pools of perspiration down on the floor between their legs, where they were just, it looked like they were getting killed. Okay, how much? $5. $5 a week. Ooh, this was cheap and it was good. Well, I started, okay, on Pearl Harbor Day, which happened to be a Monday, in 1966. Okay, within 6 months, okay, I was the only one left of the 7, and that's how I began. Okay, and from there, the club lasted at that location probably for a year and a half, and then we actually moved the location to Wilton Manors, and a fellow and I went down. It was a kind of it was a hardware store that had a subfloor in it, like it was like a half story up. He and I went in there with leather gloves, okay, and we demolished the place. We did Basai-Dai, broke down boards, and we cleaned the place out, and we built a beautiful dojo. Okay, so we were there probably up until 68, okay, and we had a membership that we were creating, and then we said, well, we need a Japanese instructor. So we contacted JKA in Japan, and at that time, they were exporting people, okay, from their instructor school, and we actually got Sensei Ueki on a 2-year contract. So he came and joined our club in 1968. okay, and we trained. And we trained and we trained and we trained. And at that time, it was very old school. So many, many repetitions. Okay, many repetitions, doing kata with people on your shoulder, things that were just almost, we thought, almost not very humane. Okay? But anyhow, I trained there 5, 6, 7 times a week, okay, until I graded for Shotokan in April of 1970. So I made my first degree black belt under Ueki. And from then to now, okay, it's just a big tapestry of all kinds of history. So that's how it started for me.
For those who don't know, Ueki is the current chief instructor for the JK, Japanese Karate Association, the largest association in karate in the world. So that's kind of...
He's a chief instructor? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's the chief instructor.
Yeah.
Ueki Sensei is the chief instructor. So, or recently, I believe he still is. That's kind of cool to have your Shodan from the main guy. Back before he was the main guy.
Well, the interesting thing is at that time it was 4.5, maybe 5 years to get Shodan.
Yeah.
Okay, but I actually made Shodan 3.5 years.
Nice.
Okay, because of the rigorous training and the multiple sessions every week. So it's
Yeah.
great.
How long were you at Florida Karate Academy before you ended up going elsewhere?
I was at the Florida Karate Academy until I actually did an overseas assignment in '81.
Oh, wow, so you were there a long time.
Okay, so I was there from, well, the whole organization from '66.
Yeah.
Okay, until '81. Okay, now of course, after Ueki left after 2 years, we imported another instructor, Shinguru Tsukasha. Okay, who not only brought a great skill level, but he brought a whole different attitude with him than Ueki. Okay, Ueki was the epitome of what we thought martial arts should be. Okay, humble attitude, striving, hard training. Okay, but Takasha brought kind of an elitist attitude, and he was with us for 1.5 years. Okay, and then he decided that he needed the club himself. He needed to call it his club. So we didn't, since it was a non-profit organization, we just couldn't give him the club. We tried to explain to him that we'd have to dissolve the club, okay, get rid of all the assets, and then you could take over the club. Well, Dan Mertens, our kind of business manager at that time, had a great dislike for Takasha, and he would not rent him the area. So Takasha left and started his own dojo out in Plantation, another village or small community west of us. And unfortunately, he took a great percentage of our students.
Wow.
Okay, so we were left with, we had John Baranowski and myself, Herschel Goodwin. There are a lot of names that probably people wouldn't recognize, and we continued to train. You know?
Yeah. So then did that group continue on separately, or did they end up dissolving eventually?
Which one?
The group that continued
the
on.
Florida Karate Academy, they actually relocated, okay, because it turned out that some of the old people, well, I'm old now, but all those guys were my age, maybe a little bit older. No, I think we're about the same age. Well, they turned into a senior group, okay, and so they ran a very small dojo with John Baranowski as the head instructor for years, and I believe they still have an organization. Okay, it's very small, and it's really, old guys from the old school type of thing, and so they're still there.
Yeah. So when you left, you went overseas. Did you go straight to Ireland, or did you go somewhere else?
No, I went to Ireland, and of course, karate was in my blood, and I found that I lived in a village called Cove. It was 18 miles outside of Cork. I tried to find out, hey, is there any karate going on here? And it turns out there was a local instructor. Her name was Sheila, okay? And it turns out that all women in Ireland are called Sheilas, okay? But her name was really Sheila. I forget what her last name was, but she was like a Shodan. Maybe she was a Nidan, and she was teaching a small club there. But she said she was affiliated with John McCormick, okay, who I think is a Sandan, teaching in St. Francis Hall in Cork City. So I drove 18 miles into Cork, met John, and he invited me to train. So I trained, and it was great. a big hall, and of course I wasn't used to the weather in Ireland, okay, and it's always 40 to 70 degrees there, so we just trained very, very hard, and then he asked me if I would be willing to help assist with the training. So I started going in twice a week, okay, 18 miles in from my village into there, and I was teaching in St. Francis Hall. Now, we had probably maybe 120, 125 students. Huge hall, okay? And they let me have 2 assistants, okay? Because there were so many people and so many ranks that I would holler, eat, okay? And or I'd say what we're going to do. And so the other instructors would be spaced further down so they could make sure everybody knew what we were doing.
Pass it along. Wow,
Right,
that
and pass it on. And so I have a picture someplace that shows us all in the kibudach, okay, doing punching, each, knee, san, shi. And you can't see really in the photograph, but all of us had columns of steam, okay, coming out of our gi tops because it was cool enough to make, steam, you might say. So that was great. John McCormick was a great instructor. Through him, I met Tiki Donovan out of England. And then while I was actually there, I actually graded for, let's see, was it there? Yeah, I graded for Nida under Kawazawa. Okay, we had Kawazawa came over from England, and I trained, it was 6 months under him, okay, and then I had the opportunity to grade for Nida, which I had attempted 3 other times, okay, in the United States, under Takasha and Koyama and Makambi, but unfortunately Takasha didn't have a liking for me because he found out I started on Pearl Harbor Day. And it turned out.
Tell us that story.
Yeah.
That's a story worth telling.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were in the dressing room, and Takasha said, "How long you train?" I said, "Oh, I started in 1966." "Oh, when you start?" I said, "December '66." He said, "When in December?" And I said, "December 7th." And he looked at me and he said, "Pearl Harbor Day?" I said, "Well, I guess coincidentally it was Pearl Harbor. Why Pearl Harbor Day?" I said, "Well, it was a Monday. They were starting all new students." Well, I found out later, of course, that his parents were killed, okay, on Pearl Harbor Day when we bombed Japan. Okay, and he thought from that moment on I had some ulterior motive in learning karate. Okay, so from that point on, for the next 6 months, I took a severe training under Takasha. So that was unfortunate, but a hard training always cultivates some skill perhaps that you didn't have before. Such as one time he came in late. Okay, we were all dancing around in the locker room. We only had our supporters on in cups. And he looked at us, he says, why you have this? And one of the guys kind of tapped on the cup and said, "Oh, we have to have protection." And he said, "Very bad idea." We said, "What? Why bad idea?" He said, "No confidence in block." So he left. And so we said, no confidence in block. So we all stripped off our supporters and cups. So we went out there, and every one of us, he kicked us in the groin, and as we were groveling on the ground, he would say, no confidence in block. No block, no block. Okay, well, from that point on, I never wore a supporter. And all the tournaments I fought in, okay, no supporter. And to this day, okay, when I trained this morning, nothing, okay? And you wouldn't believe the looks I would get when I would go to a seminar or something, and all the guys would be changing together, and they would look, and I'd just slip on my gi pants. Nothing. Bare ass underneath my but
it's probably because you're naked, Sam.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was naked. But I have great confidence in my body.
I betcha.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So when you tested for Nidan under Takashina and Koyama, what did they give you any explanation after the exam why they did not pass you?
Oh yes. And this was always a mystery to me. Okay, I think the first time tested, and I didn't pass. Takashi said to me, my back foot was off about 3 or 4 degrees, and I had to make my foot a little bit straighter. And that was the point he made.
That's ridiculous.
Then the next time, and that was under Takashi and Makami.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next time it was Takashi and Koyama.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I didn't make it. And then he commented that what I needed to work on was that my, when I was in my fighting stance, my draw hand, okay, was rotated a little too much. So I had to make that correction. Okay, the third time, okay, his comment was that my lead hand, okay, my elbow was too far from my body. Okay.
That was Takashina making these corrections every time?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Takashi was always making these corrections. And so I talked to John Baranowski, who was also helping teach at that time, and he said, Sam, don't test again. I said, why? He says, because Takashi's never going to give you knee on, okay? If he does give you knee on, it's because he's tired of seeing you test again. So you don't know whether you earned it, okay, or he just gave it to you. So at that point, I stopped testing.
Mm.
I didn't test again. This probably was in 83.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
that's a
I
long
didn't.
time.
No. It was 73, 74. Early to mid 70s before he left. Okay, to start his own school.
Mm.
The next grading I did was in Ireland under Koyama.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And that was kind of interesting because I had graded, okay, a knee-down test, and then they had this fellow called Joe McDonald, and they called him Legs McDonald because he had these really long legs. Great kicker. Well, he was going for Shodan, okay, and they called me up to spar with him. And so here he and I are matched off, and he caught my front leg, okay. He did like a sweep, okay, and so I'm falling backwards, okay, and the next move for him was to step in and Yakazukmi when I'm on the floor. Well, as I fell, I did a Mawashigiri into his ribs, okay, and at that point, Koyama screamed, stop, 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 and he jumped over the table, he came over, he helped me up off the floor, and he looked at me and he looked at John McCormick, he said, where are you from? He said, he's from the States. He said, oh, good. Need to understand. Fighting spirit and mind, okay? No idea of defeat. And he said, please demonstrate again. We did it 2 more times where he swept me and I fell and round kicked him to demonstrate the technique. And he commented that this is very good, okay? No idea of defeat, always thinking of fighting.
Yeah.
Okay? So later after the test, we go up and of course, Joe McDonald made his Shodan, and then it was my turn. I had my little yellow book, and he looked at me, and he looked at my company, and he said, I think I give Nidan. And he stamped my little stamp. So I got Nidan, okay? And that was in 82, December of 82. Okay, then I anxiously awaited when I came back, because I came back to the States, no certificate, no certificate. I had paid my fee, no certificate. No certificate. I have a certificate. My original Shodan is on rice papers, Nishama, Nakayama, all these nice things, beautiful. You know, you've seen those type of certificates. Oh, well, where's my Nidan? So I'm at a summer camp in 93. Okay?
Oh, wow.
93, still in the, so I'm having dinner with Nishama, and I tell him my story. I show him my little yellow book from Ireland with Koyama's stamp. At this time now, the organization in Ireland had joined now the new organization called ITKF. Okay, you have JK, you have ITKF, you have AAKF, and ITKF. So I told him, he said, oh, because actually Koyama now was the equivalent of Nishiyama in Europe.
Oh, okay.
So he said,
Koyama? Kaozoi.
No. Kaozoi.
Kaozoi.
Who did I say?
Koyama.
Yeah, no.
Kaozoi, yeah.
Yeah, no. Koyama is Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
Kawazoe was the one that marked, that
Right.
signed
Yeah, it
off
was
on
an
your
Iron-
Nidan.
right.
Yeah.
So I got my names mixed up. But anyhow, he said, I fix. Okay, well, next year when I went to the camp in 94, Okay, Nisham was there. He smiled. He said, "I have something for you," and I have this huge certificate, ITKF. Okay, with all the stuff in there for Nidan and all the signatures on that. So
There you go.
I do have that. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, one thing that's always been confusing to me, in 97, 98, I was training in St. Petersburg, and there was a club that was affiliated with ISKF, okay, on the Kanazawa. Well, Kanazawa, okay, came to the States. He does a tour, you know, and so I trained, okay, with Kanazawa, okay. Well, Brian Fay, the guy that ran that club, okay, after Kanazawa came and went, okay, they had a little ceremony at his club, and he presented me with a certificate, okay, of promotion to Godan.
Huh.
So I have this certificate, okay, that says under their organization I'm a Godan. And it's always been mystifying to me, how can, okay, a Shotokan organization, okay, see such a difference? Now, of course, this was in 98. I had made Nidan in 82. So I've been training all those years. So in my mind, okay, I think it was more of a time and service, that kind of thing, or honorary, okay? Because I wasn't thinking that, you know, in my mind, Godan, okay, was you know? But from what I understand, and maybe this is not true, but they say really the last really skill level, okay, is like Sandan, okay? In our style, that, you know, you can progress with developing skills, but when you get to Sandan, the rest of what you're developing is strategy and those kinds of things, and whatever skill level you have, that's like the last skill level. Like there's a difference between Shodan and Nidan, okay, when they've done all kinds of tests to see how quickly you move and reflexes and things like that. But that was always interesting. So when people say, well, what do I do? Okay, I said, well, under Nishama, okay, I'm Nidan. And under Kanazawa, I'm Godan. No.
Well, I think every organization has different views, especially on Dan ranks, which this is why it can get confusing and why, you know, obviously people get upset with politics getting involved and whatnot. But I think that, you know, if they're looking at you and they see, okay, he's Godan level, then they obviously think that you have the skill level. But there's probably some skill progression after Sandan toward Godan. I mean, if you look at a person who's a Godan and you don't think they're a Godan, it's probably because there's a skill lacking there. So, you know, I think maybe there is a skill progression after Sandan, but what that is, I don't really know.
Right.
It's so vague in between different organizations.
I
That's
know.
the issue.
Yeah.
The standardization of what JK was trying to do worldwide had failed. Not because of outside interference, because internal turmoil and the system they had set up. So unfortunately, you have that situation like that Sam was talking about, where you're ranked one way and then you get another rank another way, same style but different organizations.
Yeah.
And then what do you do, right? But that being said, I guess the good question I want to ask Nesk is most memorable part of training in the old days. What was the thing that stuck out to you the most and brought a smile to your face? Not the miserable stuff, the stuff that made you smile.
Well, I was always thinking, let's say, especially when I trained with Ueki, okay, that it just seemed like he was so great. Okay, there wasn't anything that he did that didn't have an indication that there's a skill that I sought after. Okay, even to the point where he was trying to drill into us, okay, an Eastern idea, okay, as opposed to a Western idea, an Eastern idea that there is no room for defeat, okay, that I will defeat you right now on this spot or I will die. I will not retreat. Whereas the Western philosophy is that if I can't get you today, I'll retreat and come back and get you tomorrow. Okay, so one way he tried to coach us into that is he lined us up against the wall with our rear foot against the wall. So we could feel the wall behind us, okay, and then he would come down the line and attack every one of us, okay. And what we had to do was figure out how we can defend ourselves without going backwards. Okay? And I can't tell you how many people screamed and leaped into the wall. Okay? But he came to me, and I said, no way am I going to retreat from him. Okay? So he put a wonderful round kick. Okay? And of course, I went diagonally to my left, which was right into the round kick. And so as I'm laying there on the floor, oh, he said, be a mistake, never step outside round kick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
So what you're saying is the way you learned lessons back in the day was memorable.
Yes. Yeah, very memorable. Okay. I can remember, I don't know where we got the word tumo from. Okay. But tumo, I guess, meant, I don't know. Do you know what tumo means?
Two more.
Well,
Does it mean? It doesn't mean that in Japanese.
Well,
No, just what I heard was two
Yeah.
more.
yeah, well, tumo, well, we thought that was like a fight. So as a kind of captain of the class, when we were doing hundreds and hundreds of repetition and everybody was getting really exhausted, I was saying, tumo, okay, which was the get everybody wound up, okay, so we could do more. And so wound up the whole class would be screaming, tumo.
Maybe it was supposed
As
to be
you
2 more.
like, 10 more. Maybe 10 more. I don't like. No, 10 more, please. 2 more.
Awesome.
Tell the story about the finger thrust at the end of hand godan. You're asking Ueki about that, right? About what that's supposed to be, the very end of hand godan when you're parrying and then reaching out and then moving back into manjuke.
Yeah. Well, well, this probably is more applicable to a male student, okay, than a female student. But he demonstrated, okay, and he had his hand low, like he's supposed to have it, okay, and his application was to grab your testicles, okay, and yank them off as you move backwards, okay, and that was his application, okay. But of course, there was another application. You grab the inside of the thigh and just take them down. You didn't have to, I guess you could do that if it was a lady, but you know, that was the demonstration we had.
Wasn't there a language barrier issue there though, with explaining what it was? I remember you telling the story about.
He kept wiggling his hands, and then he kept wiggling his hands like he was holding it. He said, balls. Okay, he wouldn't say the word testicle. Okay, I said a testicle, nice, but he goes balls. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Well, we got the message.
Some things are lost in translation.
Yeah.
Some things don't get lost at all.
What's one of the funniest things that ever occurred in your karate training? Sam always tells these crazy funny stories and has us on a roll.
Well, I actually had I was actually skiing in Innsbruck, Austria. Okay, my wife and I were living in Ireland this time, and we took a skiing. You know, we took a little holiday. I was working 24/7, but we managed to get away. So I wound up in Seoul, Austria, and I asked. And I always travel with my gi. I have my gi along with the skiing stuff. So I asked hello, is there a place to train karate? And the guy said, oh, yes. So he gave me directions to this karate school in downtown, you know. So I wind up going into this place, and I noticed as I went in, there's a big poster of Kawasawa. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was a Shotokan club affiliated with Kawasawa. So I go in there, and this guy comes up to me, and I said, excuse me. He said, oh, you're American. I said, yes. He said, you know, I'm skiing here, but I have my karate gi. Could I train? He said, oh. He said, yes. Oh, but would you teach? I said, no. I just want to train. He said, oh, no, it'd be an honor for an American to teach. So I said, oh, okay. He said, where do we change? He says, well, we change in here. And he points to this door. Okay, so I guess that was where you wanted to change. So I said, okay. So I go and I open the door, and the first thing I see is this lady is bent over with her butt, and I shut the door. I said, come back on. He said, oh, you're not changed. I said, no, I'll change. And I kept peeking, and I see the door open and this lady comes out. I said, okay, cool. So I go in, I shut the door behind me, and there's about 15 people in this small room changing clothes. I said, okay, well, if they're all changing, we changed in the States. So I take all my clothes off. Of course, I'm naked. Okay, and I have my gi top on, and I'm getting all fixed to put the bottom part on, and I kept hearing this repetitive sound. I look around, and the man has been talking to me, and I look at him. I say, "Oh, no sprechen Sie Deutsch." Okay, and what little German I knew, and he said, "Oh, you're American." Yes. He said, "Oh, my name is Hans." I said, "Oh, I'm Sam." Okay, and hey, I'm so and so Ivan. Okay, and I turn around and say, "Hello, I'm Gertrude." And I turn around, and there's a lady. She's got her gi top open. I got a bra, and I see this, and I leap against the wall because I have nothing on. Okay. So she laughed. Okay, and I managed to slip my pants on. Okay, my gi bottoms on. So I go out and I got my belt on and all this, and so they're all there looking at me and they're kind of snickering, and this guy says, "Oh, is this okay for you?" I said, "It's very different. In the States we have a separate place for men and a separate place for women." He said, "No, here, no problem. All the same room, no problem." So that was one of the funniest things that happened.
Gertrude.
My name is Gertrude. Awesome. I'm Wang.
What would you say are some of your biggest accomplishments in your years of training? You've been training for what, like
53 years.
53 years now. So what would you say are some of your biggest accomplishments in training?
Well, I think one of the biggest accomplishments was actually making Nidan in Ireland.
Just because of the struggle of getting to pass, or?
Well, it was not so much the test as if it was a culmination. Okay, all those years of training.
Yeah.
Okay, because I had aspirations of progressing. Okay, but then again, I just turned 40. I had, I'd actually stopped any type of tournament competition in the States. Okay, when I was 39, I was still in tournaments, but I wasn't taking first, second. I think the last thing I took was third place in kata, second place in kumite, and everybody was younger. So I said, okay. But then when I went to Ireland, I fought for another year. Okay, so the Irish people are great brawlers and they're gay competitors. Okay, but then I knew time was ticking away, and when I made Nidan, I just felt very, very, very accomplished. Yeah. And so it was a big thing. And now today, okay, I'm over 78. And I'm just thankful that I can still train. I have a place I can come up here and share time with people, help, okay, if I can help, okay, and the best ability I have is to keep going. So
I remember growing up, you would tell the story, you would tell us that every week you were training in your garage, and every week you would go through all 26 Shotokan katas. Yeah. And I always remember thinking, oh my God, how does he find the time to go through 26 katas? Now I'm like, okay, it's not that. you could do that, but I always thought that was the most incredible thing that you reviewed every kata every week. I mean, obviously we have to do that.
Well, that is really an important thing. Yeah. Okay, because you'll see students that get yellow belt, orange belt, and you'll see them go through the basic hands and they make countless errors. Yeah. Okay, because they think because they've made their belt and they tested for that particular kata, that was the end. But for me, it doesn't matter. I've done this for 54 years. I can still do Heian Shodan, and there's still more to know. Yeah. There's still more to know. Yeah.
I do want to interject one thing about that story of the Nidan accomplishment. Thinking back in the context of the situation, the society and the culture back then, Nidan for a Westerner was a huge accomplishment. Yeah. A huge accomplishment. Up until the mid-90s, Westerners that got Sandans were thought to walk on water. Yeah. Wow. So to get Nidan in the early 80s, man, that is something that I would be proud of too. Yeah. Absolutely. Because I understand thinking back as a child and thinking back and watching these adult men try to test up in Dan ranking, going out to California and testing under Ray Dowkey, coming back and being denied for Nidan, Sandan, and just being wrecked absolutely wrecked because you see these guys for a year, just that's all they trained for.
Yeah.
You know, and they just had that intensity and not to get it. So I totally get that. And I just want to make sure people understand that nowadays people go, oh, just a knee down?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, that's it? No.
Yeah.
This is completely different context.
Yeah.
Different context altogether.
When I was growing up, the stories that we heard about Don ranking came from you, Sam, and then from Les, and then from the other guys that trained in the dojo, and we heard these stories about how hard it was to get to Shodan level. We guys told us stories about people being on their Shodan exam and throwing up in their gi, and people like breaking ribs and getting their mouth beat up, and I remember hearing about how hard it was for you to get Nidan level, and that to me, coming up through Q ranks, like that's how we viewed Don ranks, because we didn't really have any exposure to the outside world. We always thought, oh my gosh, this is like a huge deal to get to that point, and we trained that way. So I don't want to lose that with our club, you know, the sacredness of getting to Shodan, getting to Nidan, because I mean, shoot, you trained for how many years before you were given Nidan? How many years had you been training in Shotokan?
Well, I made Nidan in 82, and I started in 1966.
So 16 years.
76. Okay, you can figure
16.
26 years.
Do the math. Yeah.
I don't know.
16 years, right? 66 plus 10, 76 plus
We
6.
we can't do the math.
16 years.
That's why we do karate, guys.
That's a
why
long
we do
time.
karate.
16 years is a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Absolutely.
yeah. And we've heard remarks from high level instructors that are like, you know, it's not what it used to be. So you making Nidan nowadays would be the equivalent of like Godan, Rokudan,
Easy.
essentially.
Easy.
So
yeah.
so it's definitely a huge accomplishment.
Well, I didn't mention, you know, I had tested 3 times under Takasha, but I actually tested a 4th time under Nishiyama, okay, at a seminar in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last portion of my test, okay, I was asked to coach a student that they picked out at random, and they wanted him to do front kick, okay, and so I watched him do his front kick, and I was required to give him some pointers, okay, of how to improve his kick. And so, you know, I'd been teaching, so I had all these different ideas of how to improve his technique. So I gave him what I thought would help him, okay? Well, later on, when I went to find out what the results of my test were, I was told that, well, Nishiyama, and there was a board of like 9, you know, some big, huge, other people, you know, big instructors there, said, well, the bottom line was that Nishiyama didn't believe that I knew enough about front kicking because he didn't like any of the points that I'd given this kid to work on. And so I was given a 6 months retest. Okay, and I was supposed to be tested again in 6 months under total. Okay.
Yeah.
And I never got the invitation from total.
Oh no.
No.
Okay, so that was really my last attempt in the States.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was probably in 90, 94, 95.
Yeah.
Then I went to Ireland.
That was you were testing for Sandan at that point?
No,
Or-
Nidan.
And
I
94.
was only Shodan.
84.
Yeah.
Oh, 84.
I'm sorry?
What year was that?
It was, it didn't work out. I made Nidan in 82 in
Yeah.
Ireland.
Yeah. So it was before
It
that.
had to be well before that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Well, here
what-
we go. I got a question for
I
you.
was going to ask about the regrets.
83, 84, no.
Here's something more important besides
Yeah.
dates and times. What keeps you training?
I'm above ground.
Right. It's part of you. It is what you
It
do.
is part of me. It's my walk in life. Okay. It's something that in '66, when we went to Vic Tanny's, we went to all that place, and all those guys, we finally wound up in Lauderdale by the Sea, and it was just something that spoke to me, and I get a feeling of accomplishment every time I get on the dojo floor. Get off the floor.
All right. So the next question, which is a nice question, all is, what disappoints you most about a modern karate?
That's a loaded question, but yeah.
Well,
Or what is disappointing about? I don't know.
Do you have any?
I'm leading you to the answer, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't mean
Do you
to
have
do
any
that.
disappointments with the modern approach?
Well, it seems like more emphasis on sport.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't like I like the competition.
Yeah.
Okay, but it seems like the competition today has lost. Okay, the spirit of the original competition. Okay, that it is more look how good I am, etc., or the self judgment that what I did I should be rewarded for that. You know, that was a point, or this was a point, and it just seemed like the attitude, okay, is a lot different. I don't see, and you know, because of my age and because of my training, I'm very old school, and I think there's more to karate, okay, than just all these physical movements. There's a development of character, mindset, and I don't see a lot of that cultivation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you said that, you just love the art and you're continuing to train because you're alive. So what inspires you to continue or to train, or where do you find inspiration for your training now?
The inspiration I have is something I've clung to for, even all the way back to Ueki when he asked me what I wanted to
Yes. Tell us this.
And I told him I wanted to develop a reverse punch that would break the sound barrier. And I just thought it would be so dynamic if I could punch and make a sonic boom. Okay, and I shared that with not only Ueki, Chikasha, a lot of accomplished karate people, and they kind of, I guess because I'm older than them, they kind of smile. Okay, but even Kanazawa told me in '98 when I told him that, he said, "Very good goal." And they would never go poo-poo. Poo-poo, that's impossible. You cannot punch faster than the speed of sound. But I believe that even at my age, there are things that I'm doing now that I can improve on. Okay, and that would be a goal, to get better at what I believe I can do.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm just double checking here.
I got one. What's your opinion on organizations?
On
Karate organizations.
Well, my opinion of karate organizations is they're missing the mark.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are in the business of self-perpetuating their own existence, and they'll do what they believe they have to do, and that's strayed from what I think the original whole idea of Buddha, the whole idea of what our karate is about. Okay, I've seen politics, okay, rule mightily, okay, in the sense that Takashi inbred in all his students that unless you were part of his organization, you weren't really, you knew no karate, you weren't part of anything. Yeah. I've seen that in other organizations where if you're not part of their organization, it doesn't matter who you've trained with or where you come from, you don't have what it takes. Okay, and I think that is so far from the point of why we train. Okay, and I think a lot of the organizations that I've come in contact with, in fact, I saw a little bit of it with the American JKA. Yeah. Okay,
AJK.
under Otis.
Yeah.
Okay, even there, who was the heavy set fellow? I want to say Safar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Safar.
Even with his attitude, and it turns out that Safar, as a youth, trained with Baranowski.
Oh wow.
Really?
Okay, they were out of Philadelphia. Okay, and when Baranowski heard of how Safar had gotten to where he'd gotten, evidently his opinion of Safar's karate wasn't all that great. Okay, but then you could see even at the camps. Okay, not so much there as with the national organization, but you still saw a little bit of that.
Do you think that karate politics has run people away from the art? Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. The politics, the politics, I think are driving people away.
Yeah.
Although it attracts certain people,
This
I
is
think
true.
it attracts the people with, I'll say, a personality flaw, that they feel like they want to be part of something that's aloof, elite.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah. Okay.
and to me, that's not what the martial arts about.
Yeah.
You know?
So what advice or piece of wisdom would you give to someone, let's say two different pieces, to someone who's maybe just starting or they're really young in their karate career? And then also, what advice would you give to someone who has trained for many, many years?
Okay, for the young person, okay, you'll try to encourage them that what they can accomplish now can always be improved on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and somehow what you want to do is cultivate an attitude of you don't give up,
Mm-hmm.
don't give up, don't quit,
Yeah.
don't be a quitter. Okay, you can reach inside yourself. Okay, everything that you've done, if especially with young people, if let's say you ask them to do push-ups, okay, well we're going to do push-ups, and you say we're going to do 10, and you see one student gets down there and they pop the 10 out, and another is struggling to get to 3, okay, maybe one gets to 5, okay, don't lose sight of the fact of what they tried to do, and use that as a point of encouragement for them.
Yeah.
Maybe you couldn't do 2, but you did 3.
Yeah.
Okay, cling to the fact you did 3. You didn't do 10, but you did 3.
Yeah.
And you ought to feel good about that. Next time, maybe you'll be able to do 4.
Yeah.
Okay, you support them that way. That'll
Yeah.
be good. For the older student, okay, you can't stop the clock. Okay, so if you still have a desire, okay, keep training. Keep training, because you read all the reports from doctors, etc. Physical exercise is good. Okay. I wish I'd follow some of the same advice myself, which is you have to be demanding on yourself, but you have to keep it in context.
Yeah.
That I'm over 78, okay, and in reality, okay, I'm a mere shadow, okay, as far as the skill is concerned of myself in my younger years. But the fact that my heart still beats and I still have the desire, okay, I would like to pass that on to a lot of the older students I know.
Yeah.
Okay, come on, you can do it. Like Les. Les is, what, 4 or 5 years younger than I am. But I think with the older people, okay, sometimes you get involved with ego.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can't do it, then I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, as opposed to saying, I can't do it like I used to, but I can still do something.
Yeah.
Okay, and cling to that.
Yeah. I love that your perspective is not the, like, what people complain about in modern times in general is this whole, like, everyone's a winner, and you don't take that perspective. You take the perspective of celebrate what you can do, push toward what you can't do yet, or accept what you can do and then continue to push forward, even if you can't get to what you can't do yet. I love it.
Yeah. Sonic boom, boom.
Right.
All right, so I think we know your answer for this next question. So what you been working on, Sam?
We always end the podcast wanting to know what you're working on in your karate.
Yeah. So what's the thing that you've been focusing on?
Don't panic, but there's a wasp at your left foot.
Dadgummit. Got wasps everywhere
That's
in here.
okay.
I'm just
I
going to
don't
not
want
touch
you
the
to-
floor.
It's Florida, y'all.
I'm just going to not touch the wasp.
Okay, well, my goal is to find ways that I can actually recoup some balance.
Okay.
Because I find that I'm not, I don't suffer from dementia, and I don't have Parkinson's. Okay, but because of declining muscle strength, etc., I find that some things are difficult. Okay, because of balance. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't have a middle ear problem or any of that nature, but I would like to find different ways that I can improve. Okay, on my balance. Okay, whether it be doing, I won't say going to Tai Chi, but slow movements I think help develop strength, and they may be an antidote for some of my problems I'm having now.
Yeah. You have 2 replaced knees, right? And 2
Well,
replaced
I
hips?
have 2 replaced knees and 2 replaced hips.
Yeah.
Okay, but I have arthritis. Well, the reason for that is the arthritis, but I have a lot of arthritis in the rest of my body.
Yeah. So
And he still shows up every other week, and he shows up for every black belt training, and he still trains.
And he still trains on his own.
Everybody talks about I can't do it anymore. Shut up and
Give me a
find
break.
way.
Right.
Can do.
Right.
Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Yeah.
You don't want to. If you want to, you will always
Yeah.
find a way.
Amen. Amen.
Jeremiah, what are you working on?
I'm working on still getting the coordination of the side snap kick, and I feel like I'm making progress in my Sochin Dachi, my Fudo Dachi. It's more comfortable, and I'm able to control the hip action better. And I'm not breaking my center, so I'm not tending to lean forward with my torso. I'm staying upright and getting that. The more upright I feel, the more I feel like my back leg controls things. So that's what I'm working on. How about you?
Didn't train as much. Well, actually, I did trained on Tuesday, but I didn't train as much this week because we had the volleyball camp.
You didn't want to.
Right. My correction for this week was in Sochin. When you're at the end, you're in a left kokusadachi, and you're doing that slide in with the underhand
The press and
spear
block
hand.
with the spear hand.
Yeah, and then you go into the front leg front kick, and then step forward back leg front kick, and the double like back fist thing.
Yeah.
The correction was that I need to make sure I'm putting as much emphasis on the first back fist punchy thing as the second one, rather than just placing the first one and then landing strong with the second one. So got to fix that. And what did I work on Tuesday?
Obviously nothing significant. If you
No,
can't
it
remember.
was general stuff. Like I taught the class, but I trained with them because we had some people online and then some in class. So we did like punching and kicking progressions, and I was working on mostly. Actually, I'm still working on in a front stance, especially when moving forward, trying not to just push with the back leg and then float on the middle portion and then land. Instead, pushing with the back leg, and then when my weight's in the right spot, pushing and pulling with the front leg, as if you're running, how you would actually be actively using both legs, trying to actively use both legs when stepping in rather than floating in the middle. So that's what I'm working on.
Fantastic.
I know we sound like a bunch of geeks when we talk about what those small things and our techniques, but I think both Lauren and I both have about generally the same amount of time on the floor, and after a certain point, man, if you don't either pick your technique apart or try to make it encompass, like add more techniques into it, all you're doing is doing movement. You're not really progressing one way or the other.
Yeah.
You got to find different ways to do that.
Well, you know what's funny to me, just kind of, I know we're wrapping up, but another side note is that, watching you, Sam, over the years, you always talked about like trying to progress and always trying to not necessarily find something different, but trying to improve what you already know, or fix any things that any bad habits or whatever. So I've always watched that type of progression, and that's what I understood karate to be. So it's really foreign to me to see people who maybe have been training as long as you have, but I think maybe you said this. Have you trained 50 years or have you trained 5 years 10 times?
Right.
I think you said that. And I remember hearing that when I was a little kid, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be that person. Because I see you and I see someone who's trained 50 years, and maybe you've had to readjust and whatever, and you've changed things about your training. But that's the example that was set for me growing up. So seeing other people who don't do that, who aren't striving and who aren't continuing, it's like, why are you even bothering to train if you're not trying to get better?
The motives are not true, right? They're not pure.
Yeah. That's interesting because you could tell. Well, when you go to a place and you watch people train, okay, you can tell that they've trained 10 years, or no, they've trained 5 years 2 times. And you can see of how they develop their skill.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, when you're actually, let's say, if I've done a guest spot training, okay, you can watch people doing a warm up.
Yep.
And you can watch some of the first basic movements, and you can kind of tell where that person is and structure your class. For each person, even though it's group training. Okay. They say, well, you're shouting out the command for everybody. Yeah. But you can recall from what I was teaching at Les's Club, what was the one thing I said at the end of the class?
Take something.
When you leave, take something with you. And if you can't take something with you, talk to me and I'll give you something to take.
I'll give you something to take.
I don't know if it's
I'm sure he felt that way sometimes.
That was a way to have people leave with something in mind to train with.
Yeah.
So hopefully listening to this podcast, you've left with something. And if you haven't left with anything, send us a message and we'll give you something to leave with.
No, you're about to leave with something right now. Sam, I want to take this time and just express how thankful I am you're part of this communication, or this community. How much you invest your time not only in us, but our students, our parents.
Yeah.
I mean, everything, dude. You got Les back on the floor.
Yeah.
You got Chris coming back.
Yeah.
You are a catalyst for our community to grow. And from the deepest part of my heart, I want to say thank you. Because a lot of the success we're experiencing now is because of the road work that you laid in the past and the continued service that you do for us in our community. I truly believe that Florida Karate, the way I know it, would not be the same without you. And I want to say thank you, man.
Well, thank you very much.
The man behind it all.
Yeah, well, you know, a lot of people, they want to be in front of the cameras, and some people just want to be in the backgrounds. And I think Sam is one of those guys that really enjoys being around the backgrounds and genuinely and sincerely growing something and providing something without a desire, or not even an open desire to benefit from it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't do it to get money or to get acknowledgement. He does it because he wants to and he loves it.
Yeah.
He shares the love, and that's a rare quality that people don't put a lot of value in. And I think that's what makes us special, is because we value the things that you can't put money on. You can't, put a price on, Right. We have some of these guys that are part of our dojo that in their own way make it 10 times better, and we can't do nothing to make them better.
Yeah.
And thank you, Sam.
Just to put into perspective, Sam is sitting here in our dojo wearing our dojo shirt. So.
Exactly.
Yes! Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. And thank you guys for listening. If you like the podcast, give us a rating or whatever. I don't know where our ratings are, but if there's a place to rate us only 5 stars. If it's less than that, just go away.
No.
And if you have something positive to say to Sam, comment that too.
See, she's an absolutist. I'm not. I'm a opportunist. Anything less than a 3-star out of a 5-star, forget about it. But if you got a 4-star, 4.5,
you have to strive for greatness. 5 stars only.
I don't listen. It's not about greatness. It's about how many people like us. So let's not eliminate some good stuff. That's all I'm saying.
Love your neighbor. Love your neighbor like yourself. Let that be your guiding light.
Sam, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, guys. Bye.